China rocked the world's financial markets this week by devaluing its currency for 3 days in a row, the biggest devaluation they've had in 2 decades. But 41 years ago, Nixon announced executive orders that rocked the world with not only currency devaluation, but created a new currency world order. In August 1971, Nixon announced a series of policies created by executive order and remembered by historians as the Nixon shock. It's still felt by average Americans, along with the repercussions of Nixon and Kissinger secretly laying the groundwork in China a month earlier that would decimate American manufacturing and leave us a debtor to China.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold.
Nixon enacted wage and price controls, he imposed a 10% import tax, and he devalued U.S. currency by breaking the Bretton Woods Agreement that had tied 44 nations' currency to a U.S. dollar that was redeemable in gold.
Well, when the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
Nixon portrayed the move as protecting Americans from speculators.
In recent weeks, the speculators have been waging an all-out war on the American dollar.
Nixon lied. It wasn't foreign speculators manipulating and destroying the dollar. It was the private Federal Reserve that was destroying the dollar's value. And the Fed did so with the full agreement and cooperation of the government, ignoring the Bretton Woods Agreement to tie the dollar to gold. Before World War II ended, Western nations had agreed at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to tie their currencies to the U.S. dollar, which would in turn be tied to gold. At the time, the U.S. was economically dominant and had over 50% of the world's gold. But the Federal Reserve ignored the link to gold and had been printing more currency than the U.S. had gold to back for years. The fiat dollars were being used to finance the warfare welfare state of Vietnam and Great Society socialism. 5 years before Nixon declared Bretton Woods dead, the disparity of paper to gold had grown to the point of foreign banks holding $14 billion in paper money from the Federal Reserve, while the U.S. only had $3 billion worth of gold to cover it.
Your dollar will be worth just as much tomorrow as it is today.
1 month before the Nixon shock, Henry Kissinger secretly went to China. 41 years later, we see the fruit of that opening. Multinational corporations joining with communist lords to use the Chinese people as slave labor. Slave wages are just one of many components of China's low cost of production known as the China price. The China price also includes copyright violations, disregard for the health of workers or the environment, and an undervalued currency.
Let me lay to rest the bugaboo of what is called devaluation. If you want to buy a foreign car or take a trip abroad, market conditions may cause your dollar to buy slightly less. But if you are among the overwhelming majority of Americans who buy American-made products in America...
Well, the overwhelming majority of Americans don't buy American-made products, do they? Most of our products are now made in China, thanks to Kissinger and his Bilderberg buddies.
So for too long, the United States has entered into trade deals on the promise of economic bounty, only to see workers impoverished, industries disappear.
And the dollar of 2015 isn't worth what the dollar of 1971 was. In fact, it takes 6 2015 dollars to buy what $1 could buy in 1971. In other words, the dollar has lost 83% of its value since Nixon, quote-unquote, protected it from speculators.
Your dollar will be worth just as much tomorrow as it is today.
Now these same globalist politicians and multinational corporations who've robbed us with the China price for the last 41 years are ready to unleash something else they've been working on in secret, the Trans-Pacific Transatlantic Partnerships.
It is a breathtaking event. It says it's designed to promote the international movement of people, services, and products. Basically the same language used to start the European Union.
These trade treaties will not only accelerate the concentration of global wealth, but will give us global governance. And the China trade imbalance they began creating 41 years ago is being used to justify TPP and TTIP, just as Nixon lied when he said he was protecting Americans from speculators. These trade treaties are just a head fake. They won't help us to compete with the China price. And as Senator Sessions has pointed out, after the treaty passes, China can be added to the Transnational Governance Committee without approval from member nations. They're simply lying.
I welcome this kind of examination because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook.
Well, now you know. He was a crook. And by hook or by crook, they're destroying Western economies, cultures, and sovereignty so that they can consolidate us all into a global corporate governance. For InfoWars Nightly News, I'm David Knight.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
It is a big idea, a new world order, a world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
There is a chance for the President of the United States to use this disaster to carry out what his father, a phrase his father used, I think, only once, and hasn't been used since, and that is a new world order.
So that the problem of the Bush presidency will be the emergence of a new international order.
Within the next 4 years, we will see the emergence of a new international order.
The beginning of a new international order.
The pieces are in flux. Soon they will settle again. Before they do, let us reorder this world around us.
I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't just a crisis.
It's about the future of Europe and a new world order.
There's a need for a new world order, but it has different characteristics in different parts of the world.
But today, with Asia already outproducing Europe, India and China are clearly becoming part of our new order.
We are now facing a common challenge. And the challenge is how to build a world order for the first time in history on a global basis.
So, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, a new world is emerging. It is a new world order with significantly different and radically new challenges.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
Good evening, everybody. President Obama and British Prime Minister Gordon today calling for a new world order to tackle our global economic crisis.
And the president outlined his vision of a new world order in which the U.S. would participate fully.
We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order that I think all of us would like to see.
So I see a world order in the future with a multipolar world order.
I think a new world order is emerging, and with it the foundations of a new and progressive era of international cooperation.
But in a globalized economy, we are going to have to take global responsibilities, and there is going to have to be some semblance of global governance.
Never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. Nor has any previous order had to combine the attributes of the historic balance of power system with global democratic opinion.